I'm going to go to Mitch because I think Mitch has been outstanding. And I'm really high on Mitch, but I think he's been really good. Where are you on Mitch this season?
Yeah, he's been phenomenal. I mean, even tonight, right? It may not seem like he did a fantastic job, but he did. It's not, you have to look a little bit.
If you watch the game, it seems like he did.
He sure did. I mean, also when you're going against the 2-time defending MVP and you leave the game with only 2 fouls committed, that is fantastic. That is clear demonstrated growth, because I've honestly been seeing some people question whether these types of players can grow. Yes, they can, especially when you play against the best and you start to beat the best, it carries over into other games. And Mitch has been outstanding. There were some finishes that he had, which were great. He was just very active on the boards. He's going straight up more. I know with the Pacers game, some of those calls, at least one in particular, was a little ridiculous on Sabonis. And he's learning.
We haven't seen
more.
The reach fouls.
I know.
The I'm tired. I don't want to get in the right position, so I'm just going to swipe. We haven't seen.
And he did it in preseason. And it seemed like after that one point, it kind of just turned off, and he's been good from there. So I don't see how you can be unhappy with the performances that he's had. I can understand the numerical production where people might be kind of questioning it, but he is impacting the team around him and helping with that defense. And that's just beautiful to see. Like
I get that people want to see him like break out these like dribble moves that he does in the off season and like shoot a 3 or whatever, or a mid range or even whatever. Like that's not Mr. Robinson's value. He is one of those guys. I'm not comparing him to Draymond, but like it often gets said of Draymond, he could own a game without scoring a point, right? That's Mr. Robinson. Because on offense, the threat of his verticality, to use a buzzword, is just massively significant. And, when he's out there and you just go back and you don't always pay attention to it in the moment, but if you go back and watch again, and I'll try to maybe dedicate a newsletter to it upcoming at some point, like the amount of times that opposing centers have to stay home on Mitch. It happens all the time. Because you can't leave that dude. If you have and we're getting there, if you have a competent point guard running the show or somebody who could deliver an alley-oop, he played 35 minutes tonight. That's why it's not just the 2 fouls, 2 fouls in 35 minutes, 9.6 boards. I thought he actually boxed out really well. I thought he was all over the glass. Even on rebounds, he didn't get, like he tipped a good number of balls, ended up with 2 steals and a block. He's just been really sound. And I don't know, again, not getting ahead of ourselves. I don't know what the contract discussion is going to be this summer. I'm thinking about it though, man. You always have that in my mind.
Yeah. Well, sorry, not sorry. At least with Mitch too. The other thing is he had 2 tough tests. He had Sabonis in game 1, who's an all-star, at least was last year and probably projects to be upcoming. And he had Embiid, who is a superstar. And Mitch is young, obviously. This whole team is young. A big problem with youth is that you're not going to be bulked up to such a degree that you will want to be there. It's going to take some time.
Yeah.
And he struggled a bit with some of the more bruising players. But you know what? It's okay, because the understanding here is there are tons of guys in this league who cannot hang with Joel Embiid or Domantas Sabonis. It's not like, oh, well, it's just an excuse where it's totally fine. No, but because there were moments where he was playing well. It's just the sort of thing where you have to tip your cap and say, this is just the sort of thing that will be fixed with time, maybe more personnel. We're talking maybe a little bit more about like, if you even had a Kyle O'Quinn type, it doesn't have to be Kyle O'Quinn, but just a player.
Why not Kyle O'Quinn?
I mean, sure. Of course. Who doesn't love Kyle O'Quinn?
Great.
But just the idea of that type of player who can be aggressive and can exert force. Like Dwight Howard was bodying, especially Nerlens Noel. He was getting thrown around like a rag doll sometimes. Yeah. And that seems to be what the Knicks have done frequently. Maybe Taj Gibson has been has had a lower level of gravity, or lower level center of gravity. And that's been great because he's been able to hold up, but obviously he's not on the team anymore. And the Knicks will eventually need someone who can be a little bit stronger from the base. Well, but for right now,
we saw Randle tonight. Like I gotta say, he played some nice defense.
He did. The idea of going against, some of the better bigs who can score on the inside, but Randle did fine, especially because, and the Knicks only played the Bucks, I think 3 times last year, but one-on-one, the Giannis had the highest scoring percentage from the floor against Julius Randle.
It's like 80%.
It was 82%. And I'm sure that Julius Randle knew about that, or at least coaching said you could tell abused by him, and he took it personally.
You could tell he took it personally,
and that's great. You want to see that. You want to see these players take it personally and feel like they have to redeem themselves and play up to the task.
It's an interesting dichotomy between the two of them, Mitch and Julius, on defense, because Julius has this thing where he doesn't jump ever for blocks. It is his thing. He got a block tonight, though. Actually, I couldn't believe it. I thought I was seeing a ghost. But at the same time, he's off ball. He's just a disaster. But on ball, especially when he doesn't have to go a whole lot of places, he's okay, and he's a big, strong dude. So I'll be curious to see moving forward how they balance, or Tibbs uses the two of them together, because obviously Mitch is this, like, not quite the queen on the chessboard. That's Giannis, but he's close. He's getting there. He's moving in that direction. And they are just so sound in this scheme where the Knicks, they know what they want to do. It's not always going to work. Sometimes teams are going to hit threes against them. So be it. Didn't happen tonight. They got the win. And we'll see, but I'm going to watch that moving forward. Last guy before we get to the point guards, Kevin Knox. I don't even know what he was 3 for 8 tonight. He was 1 for 4 from deep. I don't think his stats have been great during the season. I feel like, and again, I have looked at this team through rose-colored glasses for a very long time. I feel like I am watching a slightly, what's the best word for this? This is not the Kevin Knox that I saw on offense last year. It is a guy that looks like he can be a part of an NBA offense that can get out of its own way and maybe even do some stuff. He's making good decisions. I think he looks the part. The shots aren't necessarily falling yet. And on defense, we've had a couple not so great moments, but I like what I've seen from Knox. Where are you at on Knox so far?
I'm around there. You want to see more, of course. Why wouldn't you? But it also seemed like in the beginning of preseason, the looks were great. They were there. He just wasn't hitting the shots, and the shot looked fine. They just weren't falling. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, he lit it up. And that's my hope, especially when someone like Quickly comes back, because they seem to have formed some sort of chemistry, and that looks great. So perhaps Quickly knows where to find him, and they can get some better looks that way. But with Knox, yes, it's this idea of he's not there yet, of course, but you can see where he's getting to, and you can see the maturation of how he can get there. And that's fine, because there's no rush. I mean, my goal for him essentially, or I guess the number one goal for Knox of a few of them would probably be just like, all you have to do is look like an NBA caliber player.
But I think
it's a very low bar, and he does.
I think he does.
And he's shown effort. It's not like he hasn't shown effort in the past, but it feels like there's a renewed sense of purpose. Where there was especially one play, I think it was in the first half on defense, where he was like, I think he went straight up. He had a nice block in the first half. Right. Yeah. And that was great to see. He usually has active hands. He's usually focused. His head's not going to be on a swivel, but it's better than it was before. And he seems to be engaged still.
Yeah.
So that's what you kind of look for. And again, it's going to happen eventually, maybe not to such a degree that it did playing against the Canton Charge, but it was nice to see, at least it gave a small glimpse into what can happen maybe sometime this year, potentially next year.
I love he's been putting the ball on the floor, and unlike his rookie year and last year, it's not just like I'm just going to drive into whoever happens to be there and fling something up. He's actually making decisions, and they've been decent decisions.